What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Rampage Wrap-Up. We are live across the True Heels Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We are talking about this week's episode of Rampage Grand Slam. And man, it was a really, really good episode. A really long episode, too. There were a lot of matches that we are going to be covering. And this was a coming in from the Arthur Ashe Stadium Rampage Grand Slam. So joining me, as always, is the co-host of Rampage, Josh. And Josh, sir, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good.
So I wanted to ask you your thoughts because you were there live for this week's episode of Rampage, taped after Dynamite. Tell me, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings on being there live for Dynamite and for Rampage? What was the atmosphere like? It sounded cool to me because of the open air aspect of the stadium. So a lot of the chants had a different sound to it. The microphones had a different sound to it. But for you being there live, what was it like?
Yeah, so the crowd was great. We were into the show pretty much the whole night. Even for Rampage, I would say on Rampage, I don't want to say the crowd kind of died down just because it was a really long show. So, but yeah, I think this year they did their best to keep the crowd going when it comes to what they put together for the second part, and then even without having Kenny, without having the Bucks, without having Punk, I thought it was a great show all around. But yeah, like I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fun being there. As for what you said about the sound, there was like they implemented some microphones around the ring, like certain parts of the ring. So like when they were doing chops, you could hear it much louder, and you could actually even hear like the mic. Like you even hear it. So I was like, oh, that's something new. I never actually experienced that,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a good show. Super long because of how they filmed it. But yeah, it was great.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that they do things like this from time to time. I don't know if they should be doing it every time, but that being said, Rampage is a show that could or maybe should, considering the roster size, be expanded in length. But how they go about the logistics of that, we will have to see. But when it comes to logistics, there was a lot of logistics that had to happen and take place in our opening match, which was a no disqualification tag team match between Darby Allin and Sting and the House of Black with Brody King and Buddy Matthews with Julia Hart. And Julia, no disqualification, she made her presence known immediately because right after the House of Black is doing their entrance, they get jumped from behind by Sting and Darby Allin. And Julia decides that it's going to be a good decision to jump on Sting's back while he has to carry her around the ring or around the front stage area. So that was kind of funny when I'm seeing it, because he just straight up carried, like they said it on commentary, which you couldn't hear, but they're saying, oh, he's got Julia Hart in his back, like he's carrying her around like she's a backpack. And the match continues in the ring, and man, when you say this was really hard hitting, Darby and Brody King have had some really great matchups in the past, and this one did not disappoint in that regard, because these two guys are really, really good in the ring together. And Sting is no slouch either, considering his age. He's still able to move around and do the spots that need to get hit. And he was taking some serious bumps, including being shoved off of the top rope and going through tables with people during the course of this match. We see some really that classic kind of Brody King versus Darby Allin. To me, it's starting to become a really great rivalry for AEW. The two of these guys, the history that they have, and the matches that they've been able to put on. So it's been pretty cool to see. And we see the match continue. It goes to the ringside area where we're up on the stage again, where Darby's going to do his Daredevil antics and jump off of the top of the set itself. And on top of that, we're going to see some really crazy stuff where Sting gets handcuffed. And then the lights go out. And Josh, without I wanted to know, what were you when the lights went out? What were you thinking versus what actually happened? We're gonna get to what happened, but what were your first thoughts like about what was gonna happen in that moment?
What was gonna happen at that moment? I knew somebody was coming out. I just didn't know who.
Yeah,
I had zero clue who was coming out, but when it ended up being who it was, I thought it was great. Yeah. I actually loved it.
And for those who don't know, it was none other than Japanese wrestling legend, the great Muta. And Muta has a long-standing history with Sting. The two of them have had a rivalry, being on each other's side, being against each other, all throughout the course of time. And Sting is sitting in a chair, handcuffed behind the chair, as Muta's, slowly makes his way down to the ring and gets into the ring. Buddy is thinking that Muta is going to be on his side because of the bad blood between Sting and Muta. But then Muta turns and faces Buddy and hits him with the mist. Oh my goodness. They lost Malachi Black, and now they've got another guy who spits mist being involved in this. And we see Julia take a wicked bump off the apron, and she kind of goes a little too far, and the back of her head hits the barricade. She doesn't really go through the tables that are set up for her, but either way, this allows Sting to break the handcuffs, get out of the chair, get out of the predicament, put Buddy away with the death drop, and man, a pretty great opening contest that sees Sting and Muta shaking hands after the match and embracing and celebrating together. And we find out that Sting is going to be involved in Muta's retirement match. This is Muta's last year of wrestling. So I covered a long match, covered a lot, covered a debut. Josh, what were your thoughts on this opening contest? You are muted, sir.
Oh, I was saying it was great. Brody and Darby did work very well together. It's starting to become one of my favorite rivalries. Not only because of the indies, but also what they've been doing in AEW. I think both guys have been great. But yeah, I mean, the match pretty much went the way that I kind of expected, just because Sting never loses. But having Muta involved, I thought it was great, just because at least you get to see him on AEW TV before his retirement. So I know that was one of the things I know they wanted to bring to. I know they wanted to bring him before the end of the year, and they were able to do that. But yeah, I thought it was great. Just like the whole nostalgia act behind it, between him and him and Sting. But yeah, overall it was a good opener.
Yeah. And guys, we love your comments in the comments section. Remember to like this video, thumbs up, subscribe if you are not already. Share this with all of your fellow wrestling fans, friends, family, strangers you meet on the street, whoever, doesn't matter. We're always trying to bring more people into the True Heel Heat fam. So we appreciate all of what you guys do. And that is a fun little segue into our next match, because it was a case where AEW is bringing people into the fold in this next match, where we see Hook teaming up with Queen's own Action Bronson a well-known rapper and a TV personality. He has a couple YouTube shows, or I think a thing with Complex, and to face 2.0, Cool Hand Ange and Matt Menard. This was a tag match that saw Action Bronson doing Hook's theme song, which he performs. He's performing it live to the ring. We're seeing a pretty good back and forth between the two of them and between the two teams. And I got to say, this was a case where Hook was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but then, Action Bronson comes into the ring, and you're just not at least I wasn't expecting this kind of work from Action Bronson. He is running around the ring, knocking people down with shoulder tackles. He's doing the old bounce off the ropes and bounce into the guy, trying to knock him down spot with Angelo Parker. And Hook then comes back into the match and starts taking more of the pain and the punishment, which I thought was cool because, you and I have talked for some time a little bit here about how Hook they have to keep evolving the character. And it's one thing to be silent, maybe talk a little bit more, but it's another thing where we need to see him sometimes in predicaments. And there were some points in this match where he legitimately did seem to be in some kind of predicaments. However, he was teaming with a powerhouse, it seemed, in Action Bronson. And Bronson was able to come in, and they put submission moves and got the win, like basically a double tap out on Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. So this match was only about 5 minutes long, but it was actually really good in that sense of what what we were able to see from Action Bronson. So, Josh, I wanted to get your thoughts on this match, and particularly, how did you feel about Action Bronson's AEW debut, considering he's been training as a wrestler, and this is his first kind of televised match?
I felt like he held his own. The only thing I really cared about was to see how he would do in the match, and I really felt like he held his own. He looked pretty good for somebody who doesn't, this is not his career,
right?
But yeah, he did really well. I thought him and Hook really worked well together.
Yeah, they did a really good job together, and they were in the ring with two guys who really know how to work and make them look like $1,000, because Menard and Angelo Parker, they did a great job in this one, but they were just outclassed in the situation by Hook and by Action Bronson. But if we want to talk about people being outclassed, then man, this next match, it goes by quick for a reason. This is where we see Wardlow and Samoa Joe take on the team of Tony Nese and Josh Woods. They got Mark Sterling there with them. And this was a short match, very short match. That was one of the things I was personally trying to think about when I saw how long this Rampage card was going to be. I was like, there's got to be some crazy, really short squash matches. And, we weren't disappointed in that regard, because this is not a match that should be going crazy long, considering where Nese and Josh Woods are on the card. And the match starts off with a bit of a brawl, and Wardlow and Woods in the ring. We transition to a little bit of a traditional tag match with Samoa Joe coming in with Nese, and as Wardlow and Woods are on the outside kind of recovering from everything that's going on. And I gotta say, for a match that I didn't think was going to be that great, it got the job done, which is really all I can ask for. And then after the match, we see poor Mark Sterling being forced to get in between Joe and Wardlow, and that's really not a place you want to be. And he takes that powerbomb symphony, and we're off to the races when it comes to ending this match. So what did you think about this one? I know it was short, it was sweet. I felt like it just, it got the job done for what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all it really was to me. The only thing I guess I was focused on is if he was actually going to powerbomb this guy, and he was able to. So I mean, like on that aspect, yeah, he got the job done. The crowd was behind both guys, behind Warlow and Joe. Um, but also, what stuck out to me too throughout the whole show
Mm-hmm.
was like the heavy presence of Creative Pro Wrestling. So like Sterling, Nice, they're both Creative Pro Wrestling guys.
Okay.
Castor Bowens, Creative Pro Wrestling. Um, and there's a few other people like what was the segment? Which segment? I think it was it the one that's coming up? That one has a heavy representative of Creator Pro / Russell Pro. Which one was it? I think it was the Eddie match, like that one. So you're gonna see a lot of that. Like you see a lot of that during Rampage as well. Like the heavy presence of their like school
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like Long Island and all that stuff. That was like for me at least that was represented. Just because like I know about that stuff, I follow it. So that was actually pretty cool to see as well.
Yeah, I always notice when AEW comes to the Chicago area, we'll get on Dark and Elevation. We'll get some people from freelance wrestling or from Chicago Pro Wrestling. That's Chicago Pro is where Sky Blue is from originally, and freelance has definitely had some people be involved in the squash matches that kind of happen on Dark and Elevation. But after this, we have the kind of, I guess we can call it the main event of the first hour of Rampage, and that's going to see Jungle Boy taking on Ray Phoenix. And my goodness, this one was really outstanding. This was a fucking match, man. This was over almost 17 minutes long of incredible near falls between everybody and involved in this. The match is going to the outside, it's on the inside. We see the high flying that we know both guys can do incredibly well. There is the level of physicality in this was absolutely just brutal between these two guys taking the fight to each other. Was pretty cool for me because when this match was first announced, I was thinking to myself, why is this match even happening? There's no real story behind this. There's no real kind of feud here or anything like that. I know that they said that Ray Phoenix wants some revenge for everything that happened in the tag title match, and man, they really absolutely delivered with this one. I thought this was an awesome. Oh wait, I'm jumping ahead. Awesome match, but Jungle Boy gets the win. We're having this storyline of Jungle Boy trying to rise through the ranks and get these gutsy wins against people as he moves up to potentially challenge for the world title. But he's still got Christian in his way because Christian may be out with an injury. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to let his presence not be known. With after the match, Christian coming down to the ring, his music plays, he comes out. Jungle Boy's surprised and shocked that Christian is there because we know that Christian's recovering from an arm injury, and he comes out in the sling. And the first thing he does is run down the New York audience, calling them bitches. And then speaking of bitches, we've got Jungle Boy at the hands of Luchasaurus in the ring. Luchasaurus gets Jungle Boy up, gets him down. He's got his foot on Jungle Boy's head, keeping him down while Christian goes in on him, just saying that, speaking of bitches, you got to realize, Jungle Boy, you are never going to beat me. You are never going to be the person that you want to be because you have no chance against me. And I only wish that your mother and sister were here at ringside. And he's looking at where they had sat ringside during that original promo, so that they could see what they could see what we've done to you. And that leads to Luchasaurus getting Jungle Boy up for one final choke slam, onto Jungle Boy's injured back, and that's how we leave our first hour of Rampage Grand Slam. Josh, what were your thoughts on this absolutely incredible match? And then, at the highest of highs for Jungle Boy, he just pulled out a gutsy win. He is now forced to deal with Luchasaurus and Christian.
It was actually, to me, it was actually the best match of the night from both shows. Yeah, it was hard hitting. A lot of surprises, man. Jungle Boy really surprised me. I mean, he's not a bad performer, but the fact that he could hang with Ray Phoenix, who's arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, it tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about his growth. Tells you a lot about his about his work itself. So, I think this kind of proved he could be this kind of proved he could be a top player, man.
Yeah. This was a really great match from everybody involved. And I know they gave them the time and we got the near falls that we needed to see with this one. This was it makes me want to, if Luchasaurus was still with Jungle Boy, it would make me want to see Lucha Bros versus Jurassic Express all over again. But Luchasaurus is a slimy traitor, and so we're not going to be able to get that match. But what we can get is the opening match of the second hour of Rampage, and that's going to see Eddie Kingston taking on Sammy Guevara with Ty Mello with him. And I got to say, the beginning of this was absolutely hilarious with Eddie waiting in the ring, Sammy and Ty coming down, Sammy getting on the mic, and them referencing the backstage incident that happened between them. So for those who don't know, just a really quick recap of that. Sammy had cut a promo that was pre-taped, and in it, he called Eddie a fat piece of shit. And they were going to have a match at All Out, and Eddie was supposed to win. And Eddie didn't like that Sammy had called him a fat piece of shit, not because he isn't fat. He fully acknowledges and talks about how he's overweight, but that's just, for him, it works. He likes it. But he didn't like it, the comments, because when he beat Sammy, he felt as though it would hurt Sammy because Sammy was calling him fat and overweight. How does that look for Sammy if you're getting beaten by somebody who's fat and overweight? So that was his perspective. But when he tried to tell Sammy that, he did not put that in the greatest of words, apparently. And Sammy, was kind of laughing in his face. Eddie pie-faced Sammy. They got into a bit of a brawl. So that gets referenced immediately because Sammy gets on the mic and says he's sorry. He apologizes for not being man enough to tell him to his face, Eddie, you're a fat piece of shit. And of course, Eddie Kingston does not take kindly to that, to say the least. And we get into this match, and it is really a back and forth that sees Eddie just pummeling Sammy throughout the course of this match. The newlywed wife, Ty, is going to get involved in this, as we kind of expected to see. She's been getting involved in a lot of Sammy's matches, and at multiple points, Eddie's going to be hitting Sammy right in front of her, or just be, kind of degrading towards her, and as she deserves for sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. This is a one-on-one match. You're not supposed to be involved. But after 8 minutes and 11 seconds, this match sees Sammy Guevara passing out after not one, not two, but three of Eddie's spinning back fist finishers. And then he puts him into his kind of chokehold here. And Eddie makes Sammy pass out. But Eddie refuses to release the hold. And even though we have security and Jerry Lynn coming down to the ring, trying to get Eddie to release the hold, he refuses. Senior referee Paul Turner comes out and decides that he is going to reverse the decision, Bryce's decision, and award the win to Sammy Guevara because of Eddie's refusal to let go of the submission hold, even though the match was over. Now, this is a reference to Dynamite, where we had, and I remember when I was watching it, it was confusing the hell out of me. We had the first 3 matches of Dynamite Grand Slam all involved some kind of interference or foreign objects or just things that would otherwise cause a disqualification, but the refs missed it. And because of that, Tony Khan tweeted out, Paul Turner, you got to tighten things up. You got to be better with the officiating. And because of that, they're doing some kind of, it seems kind of weird to me, like a ref storyline where Paul Turner is now going to be more hands-on and more involved in the referee decisions that we see on Dynamite, Rampage, and so on and so forth. So the storyline idea is kind of weird to me. However, within the context of individual matches or feuds, I do kind of like it because this makes Eddie more furious. And that part of it, like that added wrinkle, it's not necessarily that he's angry at Sammy, but that anger towards the refs will get transferred to Sammy the next time these guys touch. So I didn't mind it necessarily in the context of this individual feud. However, I can see how this kind of storyline across the entire show or across the entire product can be a little like, why are they doing this? But Josh, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, but also this match and what did you think of it? This match that we were supposed to get it All Out. I mean, we got Eddie versus Ishii instead, which is amazing on the pre-show, but this was originally an All Out match.
I thought it was great. Eddie, it just really consisted of Eddie beating the shit out of Sammy. I really didn't think Sammy really had a chance anyway, but I kind of like the fact how they did that, like the ref's decision, because I remember when I was sitting there, I remember saying to myself, I'm like, I have a feeling they're probably gonna reverse it, or they should reverse it, and that's what ends up happening. I remember I was like, oh shit, so they actually did. So I thought that was a nice touch to it. It kind of keeps that going. Like, he got what he wanted at first, but I think him winning is gonna have to matter at some point. And I think that's where it's probably gonna lead to. Because, he's getting, we could say for the most part he's getting upper hands on stuff, but he's not winning, like when it came to like Jericho, right?
Yeah.
He threw Jericho through the barbed wire, but he lost that match. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so like when it comes to stuff like that, like doesn't really matter. Like, if you're not winning, you're getting what you want, but if you're not winning, does it really matter at this point? So I think that's a good aspect to that.
Yeah, it is kind of a situation where it seems as though it's trending towards some kind of growth for the Eddie Kingston character, for him to learn, getting revenge is good, but getting revenge and winning, even better. And Slammy Joe, I agree. Pie face him again, Eddie. And Timothy Williams saying I would have kept holding on to if I was Eddie. Sammy Guevara probably in the running for top 5 punchable faces in AEW for sure. And bro, I missed this comment earlier, but yes, MJF was and I think he still is part of Creative Pro. I think he does work with them, like behind the scenes kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, he still does. I know for the most part, like when he on like his off days when he's taking reps, training and stuff, he still works there. All this whole time where he was off, he was actually still to keep himself, in shape. He was still working out at a Creative Pro.
Yeah. So after this, we see our TBS championship defended when Jade Cargill takes on Diamante with the 305's own Trina. A lot of people were kind of confused as to why Trina was there, but Diamante is from Miami. Trina is from Miami. There is definitely a hip-hop connected culture feel to the show. And which
was funny because when I was in the crowd, right, when she comes out, I knew who it was, right? Which is saying a lot. If I know who it is, that's saying a lot,
true.
Right?
Quite famously, you are a hip hop historian and a custodian of the culture, if you will.
I wouldn't go that far, but no, but like I knew who it was, right? Like you could see off the bat who it was, right? So the person behind me, there was like a group of guys behind me. They're with some podcasts, I think, because I never heard of them.
Yeah.
But they were wearing like some type of gear. One of them says, "Oh, that's Remy Ma." Like they got Remy on the show. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, and I had to turn around and said, dude, that's Trina. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, where? That's not Remy. You know the difference between Remy and freaking Trina. Like, I was like, come on, bro. I was like, and she said 305. She didn't say 718. Like,
Yeah.
come on. I was like, oh god. I was like, this is bad.
But yeah, we have this match, and it's a short affair, going just about 2.5 minutes long. Diamante, sucks to say, never really stood a chance against Jade Cargill. And she goes down rather quickly, rather effortlessly against Jade Cargill. But then after the match, we have a little bit of a interesting betrayal of sorts, which, if you know anything about Trina, makes absolute sense. Trina helps Diamante up, then shoves her down, and there is a handshake between Trina and Jade Cargill. For those who don't know, for the longest time in her career, Trina called herself the baddest bitch, the bad bitch. And of course, Jade Cargill calls herself that bitch, and she has a group with her called the Baddies. Like it was born for this handshake. Like this entire match, this entire angle was born just for this one moment, so that the baddest bitch and that bitch could shake hands in the ring. So, Josh, what were your thoughts on the match and that little post match where Trina said, "Fuck this person from Miami"? I'm gonna shake Jade Cargill's hand.
I mean, the match went longer than I expected, to be honest with you. That's the only take I got out of it. And that whole thing with Trina, I mean, she threw that slap. That was terrible. Like, that was awful. I was like, oh, what is this? And then just her like lining up with Cargill was just funny. It was more funny to me because I was like, damn. So you telling me that this chick just brought her out just to get fake slap? Like, damn. That's all I got out of it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like, I felt bad for Diamante out of this whole thing. But after this, we have our kind of semi main event of the night, and that is going to see the golden ticket battle royale. And this was an interesting kind of a match in that sense, because it started off with Hangman Adam Page coming down to the ring, but then a whole bunch of heels led by Roosh ambush him on his way down. It turns into a brawl at ringside. Refs are trying to get control. They finally ring the bell. Everybody gets into the ring, and here we are going off in this match. But before that, it was chaos ringside as everybody's trying to beat the shit out of everybody. And afterwards, we start the actual battle royale, and we start seeing eliminations come pretty fast as I would expect for a match like this. But eventually, it turns into two guys being left, just Adam Page and Roosh, the guy who attacked him from the beginning. This match was kind of built for these two to sort of have a little bit of a singles match, if you will. And they go back and forth. But then finally, we are going to see Adam Page picking up the win over Roosh. There was a moment where Page, when they both went to the outside on the ring apron, it looked as though Page was about to just slip off, and he grabbed that rope just in time. And Roosh, veteran that he is, was able to have the wherewithal or just know what was going on to see it, that he was able to grab onto Page's hand and keep him on the ropes so that Page would not slide off into oblivion, if you will. But this match sees Paige winning the match and being declared the number one contender of sorts for Jon Moxley's AEW World Championship. I believe we're going to be getting that match at the anniversary show. And I thought it was really funny that commentary was what they were talking about during this match was they were like, whoever wins this match is going to be able to face Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship in Cincinnati. But you never know. MJF might cash in the chip beforehand, and Jon Moxley won't be the champion coming into the anniversary show in Cincinnati. I was like, oh, so you want me to believe that MJF is going to cash in this chip on Jon Moxley and beat him for the world title before Cincinnati, Jon Moxley's hometown? I find this very hard to believe. But I wanted to ask you your thoughts on just the Battle Royale, and how do you feel about Adam Page being the number one contender now for Moxley, considering that in the almost 4-year history of AEW as a whole, we have not had Jon Moxley, Adam Page in a one-on-one singles match. This is going to be the first time in AEW history that they touch in a singles match.
I thought the Battle Royal was good. It had its moments. It was pretty funny to me when Matt Hardy and Private Party, they kind of like embraced each other. They kind of reunited, and then they get thrown out right away when that happened. But when it comes to Page winning, I had him winning, but it's a little, I don't know how I feel about it, because I mean, we kind of know he's not gonna win, but when it comes to that, I mean, hey, if they both have a great match, that's fine. As for when they were talking about like, oh, MJF might be the champion before that hand, I don't buy into that. I think he's going into full gear, facing Mox for the title. I think that's the most logical match for that card, for the main event, especially if you want to have a big draw sense of wanting to see MJF win the title. I think that makes the most sense. Anything before that is kind of like, it's just gonna make you wonder what the hell is gonna happen, because it was kind of like all out when CM Punk lost and then Mox won, and they kind of did that shift. I don't want to deal with that again.
Yeah, not at all. But before we get to this main event, I wanted to ask you, because we have these comments here in the comment section. Bro is saying she's struggling to give a fuck about the TBS title at all, and Bebe is saying, do you guys really find Jade entertaining? I don't get it. How do you feel about Jade Cargill's run? Because I can see how people might be getting a little bored with it. The problem to me is, and this is more of a problem overall for the women's division, is that it's hard for them to find contenders for Jade that feel credible enough for Jade to have a challenge. Because if the person is credible enough to be facing Jade for the TBS title, they more than likely are in the main title picture and going after the world title, because Jade is somebody who really seems to be just keeping that TBS title warm until she gets to 50 wins, and they can figure out, who is going to be the person that takes that title from her. So how do you feel about Jade and her presentation, considering this was the 38th win for her? There's still about 12 matches to go, before we get to a potential realistic situation where Jade gets dethroned.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I kind of see it, what people are gonna, but at the same time I don't, just because I mean she's looked dominant. That's their whole goal, is to make her look, to make her look like the dominant champion. That's what they've been doing. So I mean, on that aspect, they've been doing their job. But as for what you said about her opponents, yeah, I actually agree with that. That there hasn't been an opponent that feels credible enough to win that title, to get her first loss. I thought the closest was maybe Athena, but the problem with that, it was the storyline. They kind of dropped the ball on the storyline.
Yeah.
It kind of went way too long, but then it had those aspects where they kind of got away from it. Then they went back. Then they got away to the point that they had a match. It just didn't even matter anymore. Like we kind of figured that Jay was going to win, in which they should have found a way to build up that aspect with Athena. And Athena, thought would have been the more realistic one to actually take the belt from her, but that didn't happen. So now they're in a situation where they have to build up somebody. That's what they want to do. They have to build up somebody to either dethrone her. But the problem too with that is that even if she gets her first loss as the TBS champion, right? The problem with that too is that if they decide to make her AEW champion, her title run as the women's champion might have to be stronger than her TBS title run.
Yeah,
and that's going to be probably even more that's probably going to be more of the issue when it comes to that. So I think it might come to a point where, like you said, like where she gets to 50 wins, maybe she has like an opt-out thing that she relinquishes the title and then goes for that world title. That's the only thing I can really think of. But then it's like, I don't know. They're in a situation where what the kind of run she's having now, that's what she should have been having as like the women's champion, not their secondary title. So now it's kind of like anything that happens less than that doesn't even matter anymore.
So just putting on your, continuing to put on your booking cap, if you will. If you were going to, if Tony Khan came to you and said, I'm going to give you 2 months or 3 months to build somebody up to be the person to dethrone Jade, who would you pick to be the person who beats Jade for the title?
Honestly, I don't even know at this point. I'm like, damn, bro, you're probably gonna have to fire me because it's kind of hard, man. Like I said, like Athena was the most realistic one. I know that somebody else said Saraya, but I mean, you put Saraya in the main picture already. You put her in the picture with like Tony Storm, Britt Baker. You already put her in that category, in a sense. So for her to go for that title wouldn't really do anything for me, just because there's already an expectation for her to be above that. So that wouldn't even matter either. But honestly, at this point, I really don't know. I thought they were doing a decent job when Chris Statlander was there, and then unfortunately she got hurt. I thought she would have been probably the perfect person, just because she's a likable. People like her. She's very likable, and she was actually getting better in the ring too until her injuries. So that's the sucky part about it, that she had real momentum behind her. But yeah, I think she's probably one that I would have considered. But yeah, that's just that's just, I don't want to say a mess, but sometimes when you book these champions like this dominant, it's kind of hard to try to find a way to remove the belt from them.
If Statlander wasn't injured, I would be going with Statlander, absolutely. And that leads us to our main event, a lights out match between Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. And this match had a lot to live up to when it comes to a main event and being a great match, just because it was on the same card as that Jungle Boy and Rey Fenix match. To me, I felt that they delivered, considering the history between the two of them. They did a lot in the match. But if they wanted this to continue, they could. I don't know if they would, just kind of the final blow-off match at Full Gear. But I'm not even sure how you top a lights-out stipulation. I don't think AEW really has anything in a singles match level that would top that kind of a stipulation. Because how do you have anything that's higher stakes than an unsanctioned, no disqualification, anything goes kind of match? But this match sees incredible back and forth between these two guys. Ricky Starks has a special Titantron entrance. He makes his entrance. This match starts off pretty fast and furious, but Hobbs is the kind of guy that he wants to keep things at a slower pace and slow the match down. He does with using tables, chairs, metal chains. He goes to the ringside and gets Justin Roberts' belt and starts whipping Ricky Starks with it. Starks will grab the belt himself and get a little comeuppance with whipping Hobbs himself. That's one thing that I really liked was, to what you were saying about them having microphones around the ring. A couple of these belt hits echoed throughout the arena because of those microphones.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yep.
Yeah, it added
the one with Hobbs was really loud. The one that
yeah.
Ricky hit on Hobbs, that one was super loud.
It really added something to the presentation, and I think that for some of the bigger and more important matches, I hope it's something that they continue to think of and continue to use. But this match, like I said, there's a high level of physicality. These guys, you can feel that they don't like each other. You can feel that they hate each other with each attempt. Ricky having to claw from the depths of despair. Many times throughout this match, the punishment that he is going through, we actually hear him at one point after taking a chair shot. It's just like yelling out, "Oh God," like the amount of pain that he is going through. He is taking massive amounts of damage in this match. And they had do this incredible chair spot where Starks is trying to Hobbs is trying to powerbomb Ricky through two chairs that are facing each other. Starks evades the predicament, but then he moves the chairs. So as you can see in the screenshot, they are pointed, the tops are pointed at each other, and he's trying to hit Hobbs through the table, the chairs, but then Hobbs is able to reverse it, and Ricky goes through back first into the chairs. We see, like I'm saying, just these two guys hitting the hell out of each other. And as we build towards the finish of this match, they go up to the stage area. There's a really cool moment where Hobbs rips off one of the light tubes that they had set up early. That's part of the tunnels coming out, and from there we slowly make our way back to the ring, and he's trying to hit Ricky with the tube, but Ricky is going to evade. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And he turns around and spears Hobbs through the table that Hobbs himself had set up earlier in the match. And I got to say, for me personally, this was a really, really cool moment, the finish of the match. Because if you guys have ever checked out old episodes of Dark Power back in the day when Ricky Starks would be on Dark, I used to say over and over and over again, he is hitting Rochambeau on people who are his size or smaller. I need to know that he can hit it on somebody much bigger than him, because it is a finisher that is incredibly physical, and you need to have that strength to pull it off. Maybe he needs to get a finisher or add a finisher for somebody who is larger than him so he can take down that person if he needs to, because I don't know if he can hit Rochambeau on somebody who weighs or is much more than him or is much taller than him. So to see Ricky Starks get Hobbs up for Rochambeau and nail him with that Rochambeau, for me, I was like, this is freaking cool, because for me personally, it was payoff for something I've been thinking about and wondering for, I would say, the better part of 2 years. So Ricky Starks finally hits Rochambeau on Hobbs, puts him away with the 1, 2, 3, and you can see the emotion on his face for having beaten this rival of his, this person who has hurt him so much. Remember that fiery promo that he cut when he was saying, "You went after my neck, and you know that's my weak spot. You know how much damage I've had done to my neck." To have a friend turn on him, now he gets this comeuppance on that person. It was a really great match. Story-wise, to me, this was match of the night. in-ring action, absolutely give it to Rey Fenix and Jungle Boy. But from like an emotional standpoint, I felt this match so much better, and I thought that it was deserving to be in the main event. Josh, what'd you think about this one?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Both guys killed it. I know somebody made a comment saying there was two comments that I saw saying like, "Oh, that people were saying that this should have been on the pay per view." I disagree. Just because the match in the pay per view, Hobbs needed to win. He needed that win to build some momentum for him. So I was fine with that match at All Out. I know people complained that it was too short. I was 100% fine with it because of the aspect. Ricky before that did get jumped by the factory. So in a sense, he still looked good. It still made him kind of look strong. And in this comment, I heard roughly 5,000 people, which I don't know where you heard that from, but definitely wasn't 5,000 people that left. There were people. People did leave during the main event, which is true, but 5,000 people, I don't know where they got that number from. It definitely wasn't 5,000 because when I was leaving the arena that night, it was way more people leaving when I left, and I stood for the whole show. Then I don't know, 5,000 people. I don't know about that one, Chief.
Bro saying All Out was like 12 hours long. I'm thankful it was shorter. Yeah, All Out. I was there for All Out. That was a very long pay-per-view, long event to be at. But guys, we want to thank you so much for being part of this week's episode of AEW Rampage Wrap-Up. I had a blast watching this one. I thought it was a really well done show. It was tightly booked. They used the time that was available to them. They didn't have I don't remember TV wise, Nice and Woods didn't really get entrances. They did for you guys, and I'm sure that you had what were your final thoughts about being there live?
Like I said, it was an overall great show. If I'm talking about from even Grand Slam and Rampage, it was an overall great show. Like I said, Jungle Boy and Phoenix, that was the match of the night. I think for either night. But yeah, it was a fun experience. It's hard for me to compare it to last year's just because I said last year they had heavy hitters. They had like I said, they had Omega, they had the Bucks, they had Punk, they had Cole. So it's hard to compare that. But if I'm comparing it into an entertainment aspect of things, both shows were great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being there. And hopefully I get to go back next year.
Yeah. And so, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in. Like I said, Safet, you are absolutely correct. The NFL Games is next on True Heel Heat Sports at the top of the hour. Look at that, guys. So head on over to THH Sports. We will be covering this week's episode, or not episodes, this week's games when it comes to football. We've got some interesting matchups coming up. I will be on there. I don't think Romeo is there this week because I think he's going to be at Bengals and Jets. He will be there live. Maybe he'll pop in to let us know what the atmosphere is like in the stadium. But Josh, tell the people where they can find you, my good sir.
You can find me at JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. You can find me every week on the True Heat channel, every Mondays, every Wednesdays, and every weekends.
Yeah, and guys, you can catch me here on Dark Power covering AEW Dark, Elevation, and NWA Power, and of course on Rampage Wrap-Up with Josh. And I will see all of you guys over on THH Sports in just a few moments. But until then, we want to bid you. I'm about to do Kenny's thing.
Wait. Yeah. Let me make one more comment because the last comment. Don't put Punk in the equation. Hey, all I'm saying is that he was there last year. I'm comparing it to last year. So I don't know where that's coming from. Don't put him in the equation. He was there last year, so that's what I'm comparing it with. So, oh well.
Well, I think we can see where this guy is going with. So I think we'll.
Yeah, I feel like WWE superstars are better than we kind of see where this is going. So
yeah. So, guys, catch us over on THH Sports. We will catch you guys there for all of the games. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and hopefully we can continue this level of quality when it comes to Rampage. It doesn't always have to be 2 hours long, but having top-notch matches and advancing angles is really, really important. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll catch you guys later.